All right. For this lesson, we are going to talk about quotation marks. Now, the quotation marks, in theory, are a very simple concept. In practice, they are a grammatical tool or punctuation tool that is quite oftenly misused. And so because of that, we want to go over what the rules of using quotation marks are and then get a little bit more work with the practice rather than just the theory. Now, when it comes down to quotation marks, we're going to go through 7 rules. So there's 7 rules to remember when going through quotation marks, which I'm sure you're thinking, man, I never realized there's so many rules. I thought it was a pretty straightforward concept. But there are correct ways and incorrect ways to use them, and we need to be aware of those. So there's 7 of them. I would encourage you, if you don't understand one of these rules, to maybe pause the video and reread it a couple times to yourself, look at the examples, make sure you understand each rule as we go. So, rule number 1, periods and commas always go inside quotation marks, even inside single quotes. So if you look in our examples below, the period or the comma always comes inside of the quotation mark. So in the first example, you have the walks, and you have the commas, and then the quotation marks. At the end of the sentence here, you have the period and then the quotation mark. Same thing in the bottom. Okay, so you never put the quotation mark and then the period or the comma. On the other hand, when it comes to placing question marks, we're going to follow some pretty simple logic. If the thing that is in between the quotes is the question, then the question mark will be contained within the quotation marks. If the quotation mark, or if the question is the sentence as a whole, then that is going to go outside of the quotation marks. So to kind of simplify that for you, I like to look at punctuation at times as being like a fence. So if this is our fence, if these 2 quotation marks are a fence, you need to ask yourself, should the question be contained within the fence, or should it include things outside of the fence? Now in this first example, it says, she asked, will you still be my friend? The question is inside that fence. So we want the quotation mark to go inside, or the question mark rather, to go inside the quotation marks. The second example is, do you agree with the saying, all's fair in love and war? Now, in this case, that question goes outside of the fence. Okay, it starts right here. Because of that, the question mark is going to go outside of the fence to contain everything. Now you'll note that there's a little extra instruction at the bottom. It says only one ending punctuation mark is used with the quotations. Also, the stronger punctuation mark wins. Therefore, no period after war is used. So you would never have an instance where you would have a period at the end of the quote, and then the quotation marks, and then the question mark. Okay, so you only have one piece of end punctuation. Rule number 3, when you have a question outside quoted material and inside quoted material, you're going to use only one question mark and place it inside the quotation mark. So this is the exception to the rule. So for the example, it says, did she say, may I go? You'll notice that there's the question outside of the fence and also the question inside the fence. This is one you're just going to have to memorize as knowing once you get a question outside and inside, the quotation or the question mark is going to go inside. Rule number 4, use single quotation marks for quotes within quotes. Note that the period goes inside all quote marks. So it said, he said, Dania said, do not treat me that way. So really there's 2 quotes. There's what he is saying, which is Dania said, do not treat me that way. And there's the direct quotation of what Dania said. That's where you get really what they are on your keyboard is apostrophes. But we use them as single quotes. So you have the double quotes before Dania, and then once you get to the quote within a quote, you have a single quote, and then you have the end punctuation inside all the quotation marks, followed by the single quote to wrap up the "do not treat me that way," and then the double quote to wrap up the quotation coming from he. Rule number 5 is use quotation marks to set off a direct quotation only, and begin direct quotes with capital letters. So direct quotation meaning this is what a person said. So that is the only time you're going to use these to set off a direct quotation. And anytime you do that, it should always, regardless of where it starts in the sentence, it should start with a capital letter. Rule number 6, quite simply, do not use quotation marks for anything that is more than 3 lines. That is called a box quote. You use a colon for that, and we will address that later. So just know if it's longer than 3 lines, do not use quotation marks. And then lastly, if you are quoting someone or something, and that someone or something has a grammatical error in it, don't just let the reader think that you mistyped something or made an error. What you're going to do is you're going to, in brackets, right after the mistake, in brackets, write the letters SIC, which means sick. Okay? And what that's going to tell the reader is that this is the way the original material was. So, for example, she wrote, "I would rather die than be seen wearing the same outfit as my sister." Now, this "then" is incorrect. It should be "than." Okay, "than be seen wearing the same outfit as my sister." If you were to leave it without the sick, myself or anybody reading your work might think you made a mistake. You don't want that to be the case. So you're going to add the sick in there to say this is the way the original material was. All right, those are the 7 rules that we need to go over. So here's your mastering activity. I reiterate once again here that quotation marks are something that seem pretty simple in theory, but it's the practice where it gets kind of muddied. So because of that, I want you to your mastering activity to be more on the practice side than on the theory side. So your practice activity is this. I want you to write a 75 to 100 word, either fiction or nonfiction retelling of a memory of a conversation you had, either with a close friend or family member. So by fiction or nonfiction, I mean if you feel comfortable sharing something that you actually remember, that's great. If you want to make something up, that's fine with me as well. So once you've completed that task, I either want you to email me the document, put it in your Dropbox folder and let me know it's there, share it through Google Doc. Somehow you need to get that to me so that I can check that skill off. And then for your own benefit, I provided a short example beneath here that you can look at it if you get stuck. All right, and as always, if there's any questions, feel free to come and find me, talk to me, ask me the questions. I'm here to help you out. All right, great. Have a good day.